On June 18th at the Bread Shed in Manchester, Catch Pro Wrestling starts The Renaissance, featuring the long-awaited red belt title match between Lizzie Evo and Chantal Jordan. In Lizzie's first defense of her now epic reign, Chantal looked to have the match won but for a foot under the ropes. It's been a long journey back to this point for Jordan, and she finally gets the one-on-one clash she's been looking for nearly 2 years. Will Lizzie's reign end just as it closes in on 700 days? Other talent featuring on the show will include Emerson Jane, Lana Austin, Rio, Ivy, Sapphire Reed, Lucy Sky, Debbie Dharma, Violet Vendetta, and more to be announced. June 18th at the Bread Shed, Manchester. Evo versus Jordan. Head to catchpw.bigcartel.com and use the code STARCAST for 10% off.
Hey, this is Kevin Kelly, and you are listening to the Stardom Cast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Stardom Cast. This is a podcast we talk all things about the fantastic professional wrestling company that is Stardom, and we do it in a positive and what I like to think fun manner. I am your host for this episode. My name is Matt Turner. Unfortunately, we will not be joined by my good friend, your good friend, and the host of this podcast, Mr. Rob Goodwin. Rob is very busy this week getting things together for his girlfriend's Kirsty's birthday. What a gentleman. Like, what an absolute gentleman, and just an A-plus stand-up guy, probably going, as well as I know Rob, probably going above and beyond for his beloved girlfriend. So, I will be doing this podcast solo today, so it'll be a little bit of a shorter episode, so bear with me. We'll have some fun. We got a lot of stuff to talk to, and I know she doesn't listen because Rob always tells me she doesn't listen, but happy birthday, Kirsty. And while we're doing well wishes, as I'm recording this, the 14th of June, happy birthday to my big brother. And also this Saturday, the 17th, is my sister's birthday, so happy birthday to my baby sister. And when this drops on the normal feed, Friday the 16th, it'll be Amber and I's 11th year wedding anniversary. So very interesting and busy week here for the fine folks of the Stardom Cast. So well wishes and love and positivity to all. And if you have a birthday this week, or next week, send me a message, because it seems to be a lot of birthdays are in the month of June and anniversaries as well. Okay, I do not want to take this podcast on a kind of a sad note, but I kind of have to. Obviously, we are a wrestling podcast and a Stardom podcast at that, but there is many times Rob and I will talk about our love for comic books. Early this morning, again, I'm recording this Wednesday the 14th. When I woke up this morning, found out that legendary Marvel artist, or just one of the greatest artists in the history of comic books, John Romita Sr. has passed away. John Romita Sr. is mostly known, probably not arguably, I think a lot of people would say he's the greatest Spider-Man artist of all time. Spider-Man No More cover. He did a lot of the covers for the Green Goblin versus Spider-Man stuff. When Steve Ditko left Stan Lee and on the Amazing Spider-Man comic, John Romita Sr. came in, swooped in, and really really took what was a hot project and made it even better. John Romita Sr. is kind of the last living legend of the Silver Age. I mean, you look at, obviously we lost Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Neil Adams just about a handful of months ago. Gene Colan as well. We have just Denny O'Neil. That's the name I was trying to think. Denny O'Neil. So really, there's pretty much everybody from the Silver Age. The Silver Age of comic books is left us and gone to basically Valhalla, the the great place up there in heaven. So I've never got a chance to meet John Romita Sr. I've gone to New York Comic Con. I actually just got my tickets last week for this one coming up. New York Comic Con, I think 10 years now. I think 10, this will be number either 10 or 11 coming up in October. Never got a chance to meet Romita Sr. However, I did meet his son, Jr., John Romita Jr., a handful of times, and just an absolute gem of a person. Again, John Romita Sr., an absolute legend. As far as, in my opinion, very much like pro wrestling, comic books and comic book artists, it's all subjective. You can like what you like and whatnot, but if you're asking me, my Mount Rushmore of comic book artists, it would go in this order. Number 1, Jack Kirby. How do you not? He's the king. 2, Neil Adams. 3 would be Romita Sr. And 4 would be Jim Lee. Todd McFarlane would be right there, but I would think I'd get number 4 to Jim Lee. So thank you very much, Mr. Romita Sr., for all of your work, and you will live on forever, not only in the past works that you've done, but I have a feeling with all these new Spider-Man movies coming up, there's going to be a lot of stuff they're going to be pulling from your run. So Godspeed, sir, and thank you for your service. Okay, well, let's talk about what's coming up on the podcast today. I will be reviewing the shows from the 21st of May, as well as the Oedo Tai versus Queen's Quest elimination match from just about a week or so ago, because that's what's up on Stardom World. I will be talking about Rob and I's appearance on Talk is Jericho. Yes, if you have not heard yet, we recorded for Talk is Jericho about 3-4 weeks ago, and it just released this past Friday on the 9th of June. I will be going into detail of how that all came about, and just an absolutely fantastic time. So I'll be going to that. I will also be talking about the Spark Wrestling Show, the Joshi Spark Wrestling Show that took place this past week in Newark, New Jersey. I attended that show, had an absolute blast, just a loaded show, kind of just be going through the results of that show as well. But before we get into that, let's talk about what's coming up on the Patreon. So a busy, busy week as always for us at the Stardom Cast. This past week for alternate commentary, we did release Kagetsu versus Hana Kimura from the 2017 5-Star Grand Prix. And then speaking of alternate commentary, we did the alternate commentary just yesterday, which will be released on Monday, of Saya Kamatani defending the Wonder of Stardom Championship against Himeka. Folks, if you like Saya Kamatani matches, if you like Himeka matches, if you like great Wonder of Stardom Championship matches, and if you like matches with random Led Zeppelin references, yes, folks, we give it to you all on this past episode. Like I said, we just recorded yesterday, the 13th. Rob and I are having an absolute blast doing these alternate commentaries, and the feedback that we are getting is just tremendous. Also, we have just released with Allison Danger roundtable discussion, who we think our top 5 favorite, who we think the top 5 greatest female wrestlers of all time are. We've got tremendous feedback from that. We always say wrestling subjective. There are no wrong answers. And keep your top 5 or top 10 list coming to us, because it really makes for great conversation with Rob and I. We've been tapping Allison on those as well. It's always great having her on. She's just a fantastic guest and just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to professional wrestling, especially on the Joshi scene. Easy for me to say. And just an all-around just great, great person. We love having her on. And of course, we would definitely have her on in the near future for maybe just a random talk episode. We really can just hit the play button with her and she could just keep on going, because she just keeps us, and I know the listeners, so well entertained. And also, we released just a few days ago, well, as of today, as you're listening to this, just a few days ago, the Himeka 2020 5-Star Grand Prix, her run as she makes it to the finals. Really a star-making performance for Himeka in that 5-Star Grand Prix, and you hear me go through all of that. So, folks, that's all what has been released on the Patreon the last 6 or 7 days, and what is going to be coming up in the near future. And also next week, we will be revealing what we will be doing for the July Patreon. We're going to be doing a 5-Star Grand Prix theme. So I'll be talking about what I'm going to be putting up on the poll for the bi-weekly podcast, what we're doing for the roundtable discussion, what we're doing for the what if, and then what the 4 matches that Rob and I will pick for alternate commentary will be. Again, the 5-Star Grand Prix actually starts in, I think, like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. And it's right around the corner. So July is going to be all 5-Star Grand Prix. So we will reveal next week on this portion of the show what we were doing. So, yeah, thank you to all of our new Patreon members. We've seen an influx of new Patreon members come up, so we greatly appreciate your support. And any questions, comments, and or suggestions, just let us know. We are readily available. So, okay, folks, I know we're going to have a bunch of new listeners to this episode of the podcast. I do apologize for Rob not being here. It's usually a lot more fun with the two of us bantering back and forth and just kind of trying to pop each other as we have a really, really good time. And the reason why I'm assuming we're having some new listeners to the podcast is we were on a pretty famous podcast that we kind of hinted to a few weeks ago. Yes, we recorded with the one and only Chris Jericho for Talk is Jericho. So I've had a lot of people ask me, how did this podcast come about? Rather than me just replying to so many people, I figured I would just tell you how it happened. So what had happened, how we got on the show, is very much like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I closed my eyes, I clicked my heel 3 times, and I said, believe in Tam, believe in Tam, believe in Tam. And I opened up my eyes, and next thing I know is sitting on my podcast chair, and I was recording with Rob and Chris Jericho. Obviously, folks, that didn't happen. But here's the long and the short of what really happened. So I really got to give a shout out to my buddy Chad, who I was kind of thinking that, as this podcast was growing, and I'm a big fan of Chris Jericho's podcast. I'm on the road quite a bit, so I do listen to a lot of podcasts, especially wrestling podcasts, Jim Ross's podcast, Chris Jericho's podcast. Those are kind of my two go-to wrestling podcasts. Chris records twice a week. Maybe as the Stardom cast and Stardom brand in general keeps growing, maybe I should throw my hat in the ring there, just to kind of see if if there's any interest there of us going on the show. So I really didn't do it until the one day my buddy Chad, who supports the show, and I appreciate you, Chad, he called me up and said, and Chad has listened to, I think, at least 95% of Chris's podcast since the beginning. He's a huge fan of Talk is Jericho. The wrestling ones, the music ones, the paranormal ones, the slasher ones, he listens to them all. He said, I've listened to Jericho's podcast quite a bit, and I think you and Rob would be fantastic for the podcast. You should really, take the jump and go and do it. And I'm the type of person, folks, that I'm always pushing the show. I'm always emailing people to try to grow the show, to try to get more and more people on the show, just to kind of, again, just spread the word of Joshi Wrestling and Stardom in general. So I thought, that was kind of the kick in the pants I needed. I kind of drafted up a makeshift resume. I sent it over to the unofficial CEO of this podcast, my beautiful wife, and she added a few things, wanted to make sure all my punctuations and whatnot were correct. So she sent it back to me, and what I did is I sent it over to some of Chris Jericho's. I didn't send anything. I didn't send it to Chris Jericho, his actual Twitter, but I sent it to a couple different, I think Talk is Jericho and Web is Jericho, some of the social medias, and I kind of just spammed it, blasted, and figured, let's see what happens. I was less than 24 hours later, I got a response back saying, yeah, we're interested. Please send me what you sent me over to this email address, and I will let Chris's producer know that, that's something that we're definitely interested in. I thought, okay, great. Now we'll just play the waiting game. It was only about 5 or 6 days later that I got an email. And folks, this is no joke. This is literally how it happened. This is something out of a movie. It was a Wednesday night, maybe about quarter after 8:30. I'm sitting watching AEW Dynamite, as I always do. I'm sitting on the couch next to my wife. And I pop open my email, and there it was saying, we're definitely interested. Here are the dates Chris likes to record. You let us know what works best for you. We want to have you on the show. As I opened up the email, and folks, I am not joking. This is 100% legit. I would say ask my wife, but she doesn't do social media. As I opened up that email, Chris Jericho was coming down the ramp. Fozzie's Judas was playing on my TV. I think he was setting something up for his feud with Adam Cole. I thought, wow, this is absolutely tremendous. We were kind of just going back and forth just with Chris being on tour, and then, trying to figure out what the time zone difference is, where Chris was going to be. He's usually located on the East Coast. I think in Florida, I'm on the East Coast. Rob, if you listen to the show, he's 5 hours ahead in England. So we just kind of worked them things out. Just within a day or two of a few emails, we worked out a time. And then I think a day or two later, my Wi-Fi went down, which it seems to happen, and basically building the drama. It was like a wrestling match. Seems to happen quite a bit with my Wi-Fi going down. They did find out that the Wi-Fi would go up someone's going to come fix the Wi-Fi the day before. And then a day after that, they said, no, we're too busy. It's going to be the day of. And I think we were recording, I think 3:30 p.m. And I think they said someone would be there between 8 to noon. So I was on pins and needles, hoping this Wi-Fi would be fixed. I talked to my mother-in-law. She was like, come on over. If you need to use my Wi-Fi, Sean Montrose, our editor-in-chief, our main man, if it wasn't for him, this podcast would not exist. He's bailed us out several times. He was like, you can come over and use my setup. He has like an Avengers level setup. It seems like him and Tony Stark and Bruce Banner are like trying to find something to go into the quantum realm with his setup. So I had that option. I even asked the gym manager if you want to come into the gym and use the gym manager's office, you could. So I had a couple different options, but I really just kind of just wanted to be settled at home. And it was probably around 10:30, quarter to 11. My wife texted me and said, no, they fixed the Wi-Fi. You're good to go. So that was, again, kind of building the drama. Because I can't, reschedule this. This is kind of a big deal. So, and first of all, I have to give props to Chris's manager, Stacy. She's she just basically said everything. I don't know if manager is the correct word, but regardless, she Chris's assistant, I'm not sure, but she's just was absolutely fantastic in all the emails. We jumped on the podcast. I got on a few minutes early, like I tend to do, and she was there. Me and her were chatting for a little bit before Chris came on. Just what an absolute gem she was and still is, and just an absolute fantastic person, just coordinating everything. So you have, it was kind of funny because she told me she was on the West Coast. Chris, depending on where he is with touring, we don't know where he is. I'm on the East Coast, and Rob's over there in England. So we had all sorts of different time zone differences. But she was an absolute gem, just a joy, so professional, and just so nice. So it's nice that you have somebody as busy as Chris is, between wrestling and podcasting and touring and whatnot, that he has somebody like Stacy that just seems like really just have everything in line. Again, so nice, so professional, and just so great at what she does. So I mean, I really kudos to her. I know when Rob and I were talking, we weren't sure what like Chris was going to ask, but for someone who's listened to pretty much every single one of his wrestling episodes, I know he would ask, "What's your favorite match?" And I know me and Rob have, I think our two favorite Stardom matches are the same, match 2 and match 3 from the EO versus Mayu feud. So that's why if you listen to the podcast, the very end when he says, "What's your favorite Stardom match?" That's why I said, "Rob, you go ahead," because I know what you're going to say. So yeah, we recorded and we were just kind of just waiting just for, I asked Stacey, I said, when this is going to drop? She said, not sure, I'll let you know. She let me know the night before, I think on the 8th, it's going to, be there in your feed first thing tomorrow morning. And, we'll make sure we tag you and stuff and vice versa, and we'll all help each other out. I think they basically go by the line that we do here. We're all in this together. And needless to say, and we'll talk more about it when Rob comes back on the show, maybe next week in the future. To say that Chris and Stacy and the team over there at Taka's Jericho and Chris Jericho went above and beyond for us would be an understatement. They were absolutely fantastic, professional, helped us out. They're getting us a ton of different eyeballs on the product, which in turn we want to get a ton more eyeballs on the product of Stardom. Like I always say, it's the most stacked roster. It's the best wrestling company in the world, in my opinion. So big, huge thanks to not only to Chris Jericho, but to his producer, Stacy, as well. So thanks, folks. And if you're listening, hopefully you're listening. Again, I cannot say thank you enough. We greatly appreciate, your help and just have an absolute blast on Talk is Jericho. So, okay. And if you guys have any questions about that, please let me know. And again, I know I can elaborate more onto it. I obviously want Rob to have his piece as well, as I thought Rob came off as an absolute rock star on that show, which I knew he was going to. Rob is fantastic. He doesn't put himself over enough. He really should. He really should. So, yeah, any questions, comments, guys, on that, just let us know. But like I said, we'll probably, reach back into the bag and talk about it once Mr. Goodwin, the author of Stardom, Living the Dream, 10-year anniversary in review, comes back on. So, yeah, folks, let's get into, I'll talk about the Spark show that I was at. Hold on one second, a quick little drink here. So, this past weekend, Sunday, I went to Newark, New Jersey for the debut of the Spark Joshi Pro Wrestling Promotion show. I really basically, well, I guess I'll get into it now. I was kind of looking at the card, and the fact that Saki from Colors Cosmic Angels was on was really kind of my trigger to pull me to go. So I'm just insanely busy, so it's really tough for me to get out to any shows that I'm not booked on. So I was like, yeah, I said this is a product that I think that I would like to cover. I would like to help maybe promote, get the word out. Obviously, Saki is if you listened to this podcast before, I was very, very impressed with her, especially during her run in the 5 star. She had a really, really great match with Sherry. She had a couple really good matches with Mike and Hemmick as well. And then the Triangle Derby with her as part of Cosmic Angels, basically kind of the third in line to Tam and Natsupoi. I kept saying how well she fit into her role with Cosmic Angels. She fit in perfectly like a puzzle piece and played her role really, really well. And I think Stardom did a really good job protecting her in that tournament. If my memory serves me correctly, any of the Cosmic Angels losses, I think Natsupoi ate majority of the pinfall, so they did a great job, keeping her strong. So I went to the show, and then I think it was a day or two before. So again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Day or two before, they mentioned they were going to do a meet and greet, and they were going to do some before the show, and then some after the show, and that Saki would be doing one after the show. I said, "Great!" I already knew I wanted to get signed. I have the 2022 program, official Stardom program from the 2022 5 star Grand Prix. I was with everybody's faces on it. I was like, yeah, that's kind of when I get signed. Get my picture taken with the Cosmic Angel, Saki herself. So I figured that was the way I would go. So I get to the show, and maybe about 45 minutes before the show starts, Saki is at her merch table and she's signing autographs and selling her merch. I thought, okay, now I won't have to wait until after the show. As soon as the show's over, I can, get back on the road and get home at a halfway decent time. So I go over and I was talking to Rob the day before. I was definitely going to pitch to try to have her on the show. Obviously, I try to want to get as much talent as possible. And I have noticed when I've reached out to some of the Joshi talent, some of the Stardom talent, some of them will have difficulty with the language barrier because they don't speak English too well or really at all. So obviously, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. Neither does Rob. So I was like, I'm going to pitch it. And Rob even said, I don't know how well she speaks English. So, it might be a no go. So, again, she gets to the table. I was like, I think I was only the second or third in line, and I put down the program for her to sign, and then her eyes lit up, and basically she had like somebody with her, a handler with her that he spoke pretty decent English. I said, could she sign, by her? Because she was asking, where do you want me to sign? I said, can you sign by her? And immediately I knew. I said, I'm not even going to pitch to have her on the show because she only knew just kind of a few things. But wrestling, as I always say, is a universal language, and she just was just so nice, so happy that she had. So when I got done doing my pictures and my meet with her, I turned around. She had a huge, huge line, which really, really warmed my heart, and she was just so happy to be taking pictures. I post them all over my social media. If you guys don't do social media and want to see the pictures, just shoot me an email, stardomcast22@gmail.com. I'll gladly send you the pictures that I took with her. It was just so happy, so nice. And like I said, wrestling is a universal language. And even though, I speak English, she speaks Japanese. She speaks very, very little English. I know very, very, or next to none Japanese. We were able to connect, and I think she connected with that entire crowd just because of just how well she kind of endures herself with the crowd. So I leave. I'm sending Rob the pictures and my wife the pictures. I said, "Oh, it's really good. This is 7 match show. The card looks absolutely stacked. This should be a really good time." And then it's about 10, 15 minutes before the show starts, and Saki's still standing there. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can kind of get a video to send it over to Rob. So I went over. I said, "Can I get a video where you say, we'll say something?" She said, "Oh yeah, 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 sure." So say hi to Rob. Say hi to Rob. So we did again the video. If you have not seen it yet and would like to see it, it is all over my social medias, but again, if you don't do social media, shoot me a message either on the Patreon or on the my email, again, the stardomcast22@gmail.com, and I will gladly send you over the video. But it was again, she was very absolutely, she wanted to do it. She wanted to make sure she said Rob's name right and everything that she said was good. And then I noticed she did this after the pictures as well. She wouldn't let you leave her merch table until you were satisfied with not only the pictures you took, but how the video came out. So I thought that was really, really sweet. She wanted to make sure that you were happy with your purchase. So all in all, I know that they are doing a show on the West Coast, I believe this weekend. And if you're thinking about going and you're in driving distance, I highly recommend you go to the show. You definitely go meet Saki. She is a 10 out of a 10. and this show was a 10 out of a 10 as well. I highly recommend that you go to the show and support some really, really good, not only Joshi wrestling, but women's wrestling. So we're just going to do a quick rundown, quick review of this show. So, and the show was only about 2 hours long, so it was kind of an easy to take in, especially on a Sunday when I have to be up crazy early on a Monday to get my day going. So, match number one was Danny Mo versus Janai Kai, the Kick Demon. I've actually been on a bunch of shows with Danny Mo before, and you can just see her improvement each and every show. I mean, everything, to her gear, to her moves, her timing, everything. And I love it when wrestlers are improving because you can just tell that they're busting their ass to improve on their craft. Janai Kai, I've seen a couple times before when I did see her wrestle Jungle Kiona about a year ago when I met Jungle Kiona, and I've seen her in Bloodsport as well. Love that hard hitting style. This is a great match. Janai Kai gets the win with, I actually was writing notes down, I dropped my pen, and when I looked back up, the match was over. But I believe, if you're at the show, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I believe she won with almost like a go to sleep, but instead of the knee strike, she threw like a kick. Again, great match. The crowd was hot for this whole entire show. I had that 3.5 stars. Match number two, Kaylin King versus Ultraviolet. So another great match. I have never seen Ultraviolet before. I was very impressed with her. Kaylin King I've seen a number of times before, and she's another one that improves each and every outing, especially her presence. Like when she cuts the curtain and when she gets to the ring, you can tell that somebody that's like a half a step away from being a big star. She's definitely on her way. She won. Kaylin King won with a pump handle facebuster, and I gave that match 3 3/4 stars. Match number three, Ashley D'Ambrosa over Tiara James. Neither of these ladies I've never seen before. I've heard of, but I've never seen them in action. Again, they were really good as well. Ashley actually hit a JP coaster, and I think I actually texted her out as soon as that happened. I was like, "Oh, Himika is living here in Newark, New Jersey. Burned some fire on the dance floor." Pretty much soon after the JP coaster, she hit a really high angle Uranagi or rock bottom, whatever you want to call it, for the win. 3.5 stars. Match number four is the one you need to go out of your way to see. Rina Yamashta versus Masa Slamovich. I knew how this match was going to end because match 1, 2, and 3, the timekeeper said 15-minute time limit. When this match started, they said 15-minute time limit, really emphasizing on that there was only 15 minutes in this match. And these two were absolutely great. The crowd, this was babyface versus babyface. I think pretty much everybody on the show was just about babyface up until the end, which I'll get into. This match was great. I had some comedy spots, hard hitting, great technical wrestling, some near falls back and forth. And then eventually they counted down 5 minutes, they counted down 10 minutes. But like in Stardom, when they'll usually count down 2 minutes left, 1 minute left, 30 seconds, whatever. That was it. It went from 5 to 10, and that was it. And the bell rang. Everyone was like, "Oh, we didn't realize it was 15 minutes," because it didn't feel like 15 minutes. If I have one little complaint about this show, one minor complaint is this 15-minute time limit. They should have given us, they didn't have to give us a 2 minute countdown, but at least a 1 minute countdown. So this way, I think the crowd probably would have bitten to some of those near falsies more. But regardless, this match was awesome. Best match of the show. 15-minute time limit draw. 4.25 stars. Again, this whole entire show you really need to see because everybody just worked their ass off. The show was great. But this is the one to go and see. Match number 5 saw Maki Ito. Yes, the ever popular Maki Ito versus Brittany Blake. Maki Ito is probably the most over on the show. It was either her or Saki. But Maki Ito has obviously been on AEW TV, does a lot with GCW. There's a lot of GCW t-shirts in the crowd, a lot of MDK chants, Maki Death Kill, Murder Death Kill Club. Overall, though, really good match. I've only seen Brittany Blake, a time or two. She was really good. 3.25 stars. Maki Ito gets the win with a high angle Texas cloverleaf. But yeah, the people absolutely love Maki Ito. Match number 6 was the co-main event, as it was Billy Starks and Saki. Saki got a huge pop. Oh, also too, if you sat in the front row, they gave you streamers. So as soon as you walked in, when they scanned your ticket, if you were in the front row, that they did give you streamers. So they threw streamers. I don't think the first 3 matches, but the Masa Arena match, obviously Maki Ito, they threw streamers for. Saki got a really good amount of streamers. And Billy Starks, I think I've only seen once or two times before, but I know Rob was really, really putting her over as somebody that he really, really liked. Obviously, Rob knows really good wrestling. So, and this was a really, really good match. They did work a face versus face match. Saki goes over with the koala buster. That's that running sliding suplex that she does. We've seen her win a lot of matches and starting with that. To me, this was probably the second best match of the show. I gave this one 4 stars. Afterwards, Billy Starks did say that, hey, this is called Spark. And then she said, I have something in plan, and wouldn't shake Saki's hand afterwards. So you would see a little bit almost of a heel turn. Match number 7, the main event, Rina Yamashta and Rachel Ellering to crown the first ever Spark heavyweight champion. Yamashta, this is a very hard hitting bout. Yamashta gets the win with a huge striking kick combo and then a running knee. This match I gave 4 stars as well, but I like the Saki match just a little bit better. Afterwards, Rachel Ellering would not shake Miyu's hand. Billy Starks came back out and basically said, I know this is called Spark, but me and Rachel are called Extinguish. Get it? Spark Extinguish. So I thought that was really cool. They're obviously setting something up. This doesn't seem like it's a one and done promotion. It seems like they're going to continue some storylines. Miyu Masha did get the most amount of streamers before and afterwards. It was a really cool shot of her holding the belt up, and whatever streamers were remaining were all thrown into the ring. So they did give the Japanese feel to this show. Again, this is something definitely must see. I sent a message over to Spark, the Spark Twitter account, and just asked them if they're going to release it on DVD or VOD, and they are going to release it on a VOD. And I highly recommend, $15, $20, $25, whatever it is, that everybody goes and checks out this show. If you like good women's wrestling, good Joshi style wrestling, obviously if you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming you do. Definitely go check out this show. Now, was it like night 1 or the final night of the 5-star or like Dream Queendom? No, it wasn't. But however, I got more than my money's worth. Had an absolute blast of a time. Again, great show. Took about 2 hours. And I got to meet Saki. And she did a video and said hi to Rob. So yeah, all in all, great show, great weekend. And that's it for really, folks. We're only a half an hour into this episode. Like I said, it's going to be, if you frequented this podcast quite a bit, we usually go an easy 90 minutes, easy. But with Rob not being here, really, kind of there's not much to talk about. The only really last stuff we'll talk about is these past Stardom shows, and I guess let's review them right now, and we'll kind of just tag out of here and get out of here. Okay, so we are going to go to, again, there's only one full show that's been uploaded in the past week on Stardom World, and then obviously the QQ Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai Ultimate Elimination Match. But let's go to the match from May 21st in Toyama. The very first match, shocking, we don't see much of these in Stardom, is a 4 corners survival match. Amisori, Saida, Aya Sakurai, Hanako. Amisori does get the win over Aya with a huge lariat and a blue thunder bomb. Gets a lot of shoulder tackles to start, especially from Hanako, Amisori, and Saida. They're kind of the power wrestlers. Aya Sakura, she's very much into the kicks and the drop kicks, so they did a good job in the beginning highlighting Saya, Hanako's, and Ami's power and Aya's kicks. So good job getting that over. This one got done in 6 minutes. Again, Amisori gets the win with the blue thunder power bomb, 3 stars. Match number 2 saw Shuri, former World of Stardom champion, taking on Ruaka. And I was really glad to see this one pop up on my feed here. I knew this wasn't going to go like 14, 15 minutes, but it was nice then, tapping Ruaka on the shoulder to give her a big match like this with Shuri. And Shuri gave Ruaka a lot in this match. Like Ruaka jump attacks her, and Shuri, anytime that she would kind of get a little bit of a comeback, Ruaka would stop her. This was like 60% Ruaka, considering the fact that she's only, I think, 18, 19 years old. So she's only a teenager. Sherry's one of the most dominant World of Stardom champions ever, and the most feared striker really in any promotion. So she did a really good job shining Ruaka up. Ruaka did a good job taking charge, but eventually Shuri just hits a flurry of forearms, a flurry of kicks, tries to break down Ruaka's knee, eventually taps her out to the Byakko, also known as the White Tiger stretch muffler. 7 minutes, 18 seconds, 3.25 stars. Match number 3 saw the makeshift team we've been seeing a lot of Suzuki and May Sierra taking on the Club Venus team of Mariah May and Jessie. We have a really, really good start with Suzuki and Jessie. They had some really good chemistry. Suzu and May Sierra, they're teamwork, and their double teams, their timings, their tags, really gelling well together. Suzu's very, very explosive, and obviously Um, May Sierra is very well versed in the high speed wrestling, so they do a really good job kind of combining the two styles. I thought that was really good. Mariah May looked really good here. She had like a little mini high speed spot with May. I thought that was really good, and maybe that's somewhere that we can maybe see Mariah May, easy for me to say, Mariah May challenging Saki for the high speed championship somewhere in the future. I would be all for that. She did say she's coming for all the belts. Just seemed like she's getting an IWGP Women's Championship match versus Mayu coming sometime soon, and obviously the pay-per-view coming up in a few weeks. Her and Mina Shirakawa will be challenging Mirai and Ami Sourei, the new eras, for the Goddess of Stardom Championship. So maybe the high-speed belt is something else that she's going for. Eventually, Suzuki hits the tequila shot on Jesse for the pin. 8 minutes, 17 seconds, 3.5 stars. We move on to match number 4, 8-person tag team match, as we see the Donald DeMello team of Micah, Tekla, Julia, and Mei Sakurai defeat the Oedo Tai team of Momo Watanabe, Saki Kashima, Natsuko Tora, and Starlight Kid. Of course, multi-person Oedo Tai match. You know how it's going to start. The Oedo Tai jump leads to a big all over the place brawl. We see Oedo Tai put some heat on Mei Sakurai. Micah comes in for the save and basically just destroys everybody. We get some really good Momo Watanabe and Micah violence, and we've really never seen a proper singles match between the two, especially like Momo is really ramping up the violence since she's been a part of Oedo Tai, and Micah has been, ever since the retirement of her tag partner Himika, we've seen a new side of Micah. Not that she wasn't violent before, but she's like extra aggressive. So fingers crossed. I actually just put a tweet out just a day or two ago of certain block matches I want to see in the 5-star. And hopefully we get Momo Watanabe versus Micah in the same block because their violence was great. Saki hits Tekla with the double stomp for 2. Tekla comes back with the toxic spear and then the double arm DDT, the Domando death drop onto onto Saki for the 3 count at 11 minutes and 13 seconds, 3.5 stars. It was a really, really good outing. Match number 5 and the co-main event of this show had the makeshift, I guess, Cosmic Angels team, Yuna Mizumori teaming up with Meltier, Tam Nakano, and Natsupoi to take on the Club Venus team of Mina Shirakawa, Xena, and Waka. At this point, Tam is not the double champion, so this was a precursor to Tam versus Mina at Flashing Champions, which we saw a few weeks ago. They had some really good violence and really, really built stuff, really built some really good stuff up to that. Xena and Yuna had a really, really good start. Xena has the machine gun chops on Natsupoi, which, boy, nobody takes a beating like poor Natsupoi, right? We get some Meltier double teamwork on Mina. I thought that was really cool how, Natsupoi basically bumped Mina off as the co-captain of Cosmic Angels back last summer. And here we see Meltier doing the double teaming to really get the advantage of their team on Mina Shirakawa, the former member of Cosmic Angels. I thought that was really good. Mina hits a back suplex onto Tam on the apron. Tam then Germans Mina onto the floor. That was all sorts of gross. Waka and Xena teamwork on Tam. Natsupoi and Yuna Mizumori they do double dives. That was really cool. Yuna Mizumori is somebody that's really impressed me these last 3 or 4 months. When she came in, she was kind of coming in with a pineapple gimmick, and I think she was coming in from Gado Move, which is they're kind of more of a comedy style. But again, when you're working with the best roster in the world, basically on a weekly basis, you're only going to get better. And Yuna Mizumori, again, there's 2 open spots for the 5-star Grand Prix. I know we think Hana, Saito, what if Kyrie slips in there, kind of just, unannounced, but then obviously announced. Who's going to get the Mariah May, Tekla, who's going to get that final spot? Would not be heartbroken if it was Yuna, because she's really, really on a hot streak here. She's having some really, really good matches. Now we're seeing her do dives. I thought that was cool. Tam wipes out Waka with a brutal violent shooting and then hits the Tiger Suplex on poor Waka. 11 minutes, 19 seconds, 3.75 stars. And then we see Mina and Tam attack each other after the match to build up to their double championship match, which obviously did happen a few days after this show. But the Mina and Tam violence in this match was really, really ramped up. They did a really good job trying to sell some extra pay-per-views and some extra tickets to the crowd here. The main event did see the Queen's Quest team of Lady C, Utami Hayashishita, Sai Kamatani, and Azumi defeat the Stars team of Mayu Iwatani, Hana, Suzuki, and Koguma. Koguma and Lady C start out with some comedy, and then we get some four-way Stars teamwork. And then we see a really, really good pairing with Utami and Hana. They had about maybe 90 to 100 seconds where they were in the ring, which is pure magic. I thought, man, that's what's great about these Stardom multi-person matches, because you'll see like flashes of brilliance between two wrestlers of like, oh man, I never knew I needed to see like an 8 to 10 or 12-minute match between those two. But now it's something I'd like to see. And Utami versus Hanan, yes, please. Again, if Hanan does get into the 5-star, I hope she's in the same block with Utami, because I thought that was really good. Of course, Mayu and Utami, that's just pure magic. Obviously, Utami did defeat Mayu to win the World of Stardom Championship back almost 3 years ago, and then Mayu, she did defeat Utami in the semifinals of the IWGP Women's Tournament, a match that was just absolutely great. Both those matches were great. Suzuki versus Zoomy, folks. I mean, arguably two of the greatest high-speed champions of all time. They have a segment here, and again, that's a match that I would love to see, because again, we have not seen a proper Suzuki versus Zoomy match, especially how good both these ladies have gotten the last 8 or 9 months. Hope that as a block match we get. Utami and Lady C, folks, their tag team work here was fantastic. And I know they're teasing the breakup of Aphrodite, which I do not want to see. But if it leads to a Utami and Lady C tag team in the Goddess of Stardom tournament in the fall, I would not be heartbroken. I'd be heartbroken if they broke up Aphrodite, but that would put a few band-aids on my heart to see Utami and Lady C team up. They do the Holy Demon Army finish where Lady C grabs you for the choke slam and Utami hits the belly to back suplex. So anytime you do some Kawada Taue Holy Demon Army stuff and do it well, you'll always get a thumbs up from me. Um, and then we get Hazuki eats a huge double stomp from Izumi for a 2 count. Mayu and Hazuki stereo suicide dives lead to four-way Stars teamwork on Sai Kamatani. Entire QQ comes in to save Saya. Saya eventually fights back. Everybody's brawling on the outside. Sai Kamatani hits that perfect springboard plancha to the outside. I don't think anybody in wrestling does it better. It looks like she's basically holds herself in midair. And then the four-way teamwork flips back. We get the four-way QQ teamwork. Nice to see Saya and Utami on the same page for about a minute there, though that was nice. Koguma escapes the Star Crusher, Saya Kamatani Star Crusher, with a Kuma roll for a 2 count that a lot of people bid on, so did I. We get some Aphrodite and Azumi teamwork on Koguma that leads to Saya Kamatani finally hitting that Star Crusher onto Koguma for the 3 count. I had it at 4 stars. This one almost went 20 minutes, 19 minutes, 17 seconds. Definitely go and see the show. Overall, really good show, but make sure you watch the co-main event to see the Tam and Mina violence and all this main event. All 8 ladies absolutely blew it out of the water. They were all fantastic there. Really, the last thing for us to review, folks, is was left for immediate release. Anytime Stardom leave something on immediate release on the Stardom World is something that we absolutely have to watch. They did it about 2 weeks ago with the generational divide match between basically the new school versus the old school in Cork and Hall. And soon as this match was over, we got a message from Stardom over on Twitter saying this match is going to be up in about an hour or so, something that everyone needs to go out of their way to see. So we had an elimination Survivor Series style match, basically kind of leading up to the cage match that we're going to be getting here in 2 weeks' time. We have the Queen's Quest team, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, Izumi, Sai Kamatani, and um, Sai Kamatani, Izumi, and Utami Hayashishita taking on the Queen's Quest team of Starlight Kid Ruaka, Momo Watanabe, Natsuko Tora, and Saki Kashima. Utami fires off some big forearms. As soon as Utami sees the last person announced, as soon as they announce her name, she's still in her robe. She just runs right at Tora and just drops her with her forearm. We get a big brawl to start. Really good way to start this match. Just kind of jump started, putting a lot of fuel onto the fire. Back inside, Tora really takes it to Utami. I mean, Utami gets brutalized by Tora. Obviously, Tora is still pissed off at Utami for getting injured in the match the two of them had. Was at this time almost 2 years ago. Obviously, if you haven't seen it yet, it's a match that I don't like watching wrestlers get injured. Um, I had to watch the match maybe about a year or so ago for the Patreon when I did Utami's World of Stardom Championship reign. And the match was going really well. It was only about 6 or 7 minutes in where Tora, she just blows out her knee. You don't really see anything because Tora wears the long pants, so you don't see any like any gross injuries. But Tora blows out her knee, and basically her first singles match back was against Utami. It was like 15 months later, and these two blew it out of the water. But Tora and Utami are doing a really good job, kind of targeting each other and playing back off that match from 2 years ago. So again, Utami, as soon as the bell rings, goes after Tora. Once the brawl kind of simmers down a little, we kind of get back to being, having somewhat of a normal match. Tora was getting really, really stiff and giving a lot of receipts to the Red Queen. I thought that was really good. Um, Back in, let's see, we get some small heat on Utami. Miyu comes in and just looks solid. Miyu Amasaki is somebody that I've been championing on this podcast the last 5 or 6 weeks or so, that she's getting constantly better with each and every outing. Seems like ever since that Shuri match that she had, I think, believe it was at New Blood, and then her match with Azumi at the New Blood 9 that we just covered just about a week or two ago. It really seems like she's somebody that's like, okay, this roster is absolutely loaded. She is obviously putting the time in at the dojo. Her timing's better, her intensity's better, her forearms are getting better. Forearms 6 months ago, those things wouldn't break an egg. And I love seeing wrestlers improve. We saw Mina Shirakawa. I said a year ago on this podcast, Mina Shirakawa by the end of the year is somebody to keep her eyes on. And she was, chasing the white belt by the end of the year. And now she wins the white belt. Obviously, she lost the white belt soon thereafter, but she's somebody that's now a bona fide solid main eventer in that loaded Stardom roster. So I'm not saying Miyu Amasaki's going to be white belt material by the end of the year, but I'm saying she is somebody that's going to improve so much more because she's getting better each and every outing. And they did a great job in this match where you have Azumi, you have Utami, you have Sai Kamatani, you have Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe. So you have all these stars, all these different storylines going in. They do a great job giving Miyu a little bit of a spotlight to show what she can do, which I thought was great. Eventually, we kind of just fire off the eliminations here. Zumi Sushi on Ruaka for 3 count, eliminating Ruaka. Starlight Kid, Momo pins Lady C with the bastard driver, the inhumane driver. That gets her out. We get some great tag work with Sai and Utami versus Momo and Tora. Momo and Tora kind of a makeshift team going after Mirai and Amisori for the goddess belts. Sai and Utami a little bit on the same page here. I thought that was really good. So they give us like a mini match, like a 3-4 minute match. Eventually, Momo and Tora are fighting on the apron with Aphrodite, Utami, and Saya Kamatani. Eventually, Momo and Tora are able to eliminate over the top rope Aphrodite. But while Momo and Tora are celebrating that they eliminated the former tag champs, Miyu Amasaki and the Zumi O2 line, they double dropkick Momo and Tora out of the ring. So we basically get 4 wrestlers eliminated all within a handful of seconds of themselves. Starlight Kid then eliminates Miyu Amasaki over the top rope. The two of them are brawling on the apron. Starlight Kid hits the Black Tiger Pile Driver, which, if you don't know, is basically like a one-handed tombstone, onto Miyu Amasaki, and then Miyu Amasaki rolls to the floor, eliminating her over the top rope. Again, very much like Starlight Kid here, is very much like Momo and Tora. She celebrates her elimination, but forgets that her eternal foe, her rival, Azumi's right there. She boots Starlight Kid over the top rope as we get Saki Kashima and Azumi, the last 2 wrestlers in the ring, and for everybody upset that when Saki Kashima, we get Saki Kashima versus Azumi, they have like a mini match here. For everybody upset that when Saki Kashima beat Azumi or won the high speed championship, she won in a 3-way with Fukin Death and Azumi, but did not pin Azumi. So people were saying, "Oh man, I wish she would have got the win there. I wish they would have gave her the rub to defeat arguably the greatest high speed championship, arguably the greatest high speed champion ever, Azumi." I see your point there, but obviously it didn't happen. She winds up pinning Fukin Death. She gets a clean win over Azumi here. She did beat her in the final night of the 5-star on Azumi's birthday, October 1st. If you do remember, if Azumi would have won that match, she would have went to the finals that night. So even though Saki, who is the high-speed champion, did not technically defeat the high-speed champion for the high-speed belt, she gets the win here in a big, big elimination style match. She's the sole survivor, and again, back in October, she stopped Azumi on her birthday with new gear from making it to the finals of the 5-star. So it's Saki Kashima, the sole survivor. A good way to put a spotlight on Saki Kashima and the High Speed Championship as well. I gave this a solid 4 stars. Folks, believe it or not, this one's going to clock in right under an hour because I believe that is all. Again, if you're new to this show, thank you for bearing with me. Again, it's very rarely a one-person show. Usually Rob does come on. I know that we're probably getting a lot of new listeners, a lot of new ears and eyes from the Talk is Jericho podcast. Obviously, the gentleman much smarter than me, and that obviously sounded better than me. Rob is not on the show this week. He will be back next week. We'll go back over, talk some more stuff from us on Talk is Jericho and anything else that he has to do or that he wants to talk about. Next week we will be previewing the pay-per-view coming up on the 25th, the 2 cage matches with Stars challenging DDM for the artist belts, and then of course the big giant cage match, Queen's Quest versus Oedo Tai, with the last person left in the cage has to leave the unit. So we will be previewing that next week, plus so much more. But yeah, folks, that is going to do it for this episode. Unbelievable. People, it always seems that whenever we have a podcast that goes well over 2 hours, a lot of our listeners are excited because they love it when they get, the big long podcast is, sometimes we don't tend to go that way, but when Rob and I get on a roll, kind of just laughing and just talking about Stardom, that's kind of the way that it goes. So I know when people see this run time and it's going to be under an hour, they're going to be like, well, what was happened? Did it get clipped? No, folks, it was kind of just a one-man show, and it was kind of a quiet week. It kind of was a quiet week, just the one show, the one match. Of course, I want to talk about and put over the Spark Joshi professional wrestling company. I really, really hope they do well because that's what we need is more Joshi style and really solid women's wrestling over here in North America. So, good luck to them, and thumbs up. I'm rooting for you guys over at Spark, and I hope that you guys keep up the great shows. Folks, questions, comments, anything that I can do for you, Matt Turner OF on the Twitter and the Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me there. Social media is not your thing, not a problem. Shoot me an email, the StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Folks, we cannot say thank you enough for all the fantastic support that you have shown us. It really blows us away about just the numbers we see. We see the YouTube channel growing, we see the Patreon growing, the subscriptions growing, the Facebook, Twitter, everything grows on a daily basis. That's because of you. We greatly appreciate your support. If you have not done so, please go over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review and a comment if you like. It really helps the algorithm out, helps get the show out, which in turn helps us get out the word of Stardom, which is our ultimate goal. We are trying to get the Stardom product in front of as many eyes and ears as possible, as we are convinced and determined to show everybody that Stardom is the best wrestling company in the world. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for me this week. Like I said, any questions, comments, you know how to get a hold of me. We're always here for suggestions as well, because like I always say, just not my podcast. It's our podcast, because we're all together, and everybody's different, everybody's special. Thanks. Have a great day.